Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where we take a more in-depth look at the options available to the player of the Human Alliance in the game of Fantasy Clash. First off, we'll go through the core cards. Remember, out of your 20 starting cards, 10 of them will come from your core card selection and will make up the bulk of your forces. We have 5 different types, each with 4 cards. First up, we have the Swordsman. These are your core choice all-rounders. They've got an average unit size and have identical attack and defense score of 8. This gives them a lot of flexibility in how you use them. Next we have the Pikemen. These guys are the best defensive core choice. They do not have much of an attack score, but their high defense score, for a core card at least, of 10 means they can hold up a lane quite well, forcing your opponent to commit more resources to try and clear them out. Moving on now to the Priest card. This guy's a disaster in any type of combat, but that's not what they're there for. Their Blessing skill allows you to buff your own cards or debuff the enemy. They have a Blessing of War, which lets you add a d6 to the card's next attack. They have a Shield Blessing, which buffs defense rolls. They have a Harvest Blessing, which allows you to play reinforcements easier. And a Death Blessing, which debuffs the opponent's cards. The more priests you have in play, the better the chance of successfully casting a blessing and having more than one blessing in play. The fact that blessings are not limited in range also help you keep them away from the fighting. Another card that's not designed for combat is the Field Surgeon. Their purpose is to keep your other cards in the field of battle. Its heal ability allows it to make a save throw of any card within its range score of 3 that would normally be removed from play. This can really swing a game as your opponent thinks they've finally removed one of your main cards, and you make a heal saving throw and it stays in play instead. The more Field Surgeons in range, the more dice you throw, so the more chance you have of being successful. Finally, we'll look at the crossbows. These guys give you access to ranged attacks. They can safely shoot at targets from range without having to worry about losing the combat. Great for picking off lower rank cards or shooting at unrevealed cards and forcing them to go face up. Next selection, you pick 5 of them, again in any combination you like. Halberders are your flexible choice at this level. They have no special rules, but their stats make them very dangerous in any kind of combat, both in attack and defense. Their size as well means they're not going to be overwhelmed anytime soon. The Bounty Hunter is an unusual card. It has multiple uses. While its stats are not as good as the Halberder, they do have a range of 2, which means you can use them effectively in close combat as well as ranged attacks. Not many cards have the flexibility to do both. As an added bonus, they have the Bounty ability. That means when they come into play, you can place a bounty on one of your opponent's cards, which will cause a debuff for as long as it remains in play. This is one use only, so the more Bounty Hunters you have, the more bounties you can place. Now we move across to the Pit Fighter. These guys have a higher attack score, so better on the offense. However, their small size score can cause issues against bigger opponents. But it's their ability of Killing Blow where they really shine. Rolling a natural 6 in close combat will automatically win the fight. This allows them to have a chance to take down even the best cards in the game. Wizards, however, are terrible combat troops, but they have the Magic ability, the only cards available to the Alliance that do. This gives you access to the Magic deck, which can really turn the tide of a battle. We'll look at the spells later, but for now, more wizards you have, the more likely you have of casting the spell successfully. Moving along now to the elite cards. These are a lot rarer, with only 3 different types, with only 2 copies of each, but you can take 3 at the start. First up, we have the Hellmouth. It's a modified cannon with a huge range value. It can cause devastation from afar that's very difficult for your opponent to do anything about if it's positioned right. However, it is very fragile, so it must be kept safe to be effective. Also, it has the War Machine rule, which means it cannot be moved after it's revealed, so initial placement is very vital for this card. Next up are the Knights. Already an offensive unit with its higher attack score, it combines this with the Charge ability, which gives them an extra dice when they attack. Just make sure to look after them, it can be very vulnerable to a counterattack. Finally, we have the Templars. Where they do not have the ability of the Knight's Charge or the range of the Hellmouth, what they do have is a huge stat score in attack and defense and can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the game. Their magic score of 8 as well protects them from enemy spells coming in. Moving on to the character cards. Each race has 2 heroes and 3 champions, and you start with one of each. The Alliance heroes are Elias Dante and Marshal Voss. Elias has high stats, but also has the Killing Blow ability, which means he always has a chance in any fight. But also, in addition, he's got the Banner ability, which gives a small buff to any cards around him. Voss, on the other hand, has the Charge ability, which makes him into attacking powerhouse. But not only that, he also gives a massive buff to any knights in the field of play. So if you choose Marshal Voss as your hero, make sure to max out on knights when you're picking your elite cards. For champions, we'll first take a look at the assassin. As far as combat goes, he can handle himself, but he works more like a safety net. As long as he has not been revealed, you can sacrifice him and remove any of your opponent's currently revealed cards. So if you're worried about a card that you'll struggle to remove, this will get you out of jail. Eric Ragcastle does not match up to the others combat-wise, but his ability of Shield Brothers reduces the amount of cards you need for reinforcements, so you can get more cards on the battlefield quicker. Artaeus Kirkridge is also a capable fighter, but his ability allows you to give him a magic item in addition to the one you're normally allowed. This gives him a lot more flexibility, which we'll see when we look at the magic items later. We've also got the Titan card, the Wrathbringer, and the Legend card, the Divine Knight. These do not start the battle, but if you draw them as reinforcements, both will change the tide of battle. Now let's move on to see what kind of magic items are available for the Human Alliance. The first one is the Amulet of Spellbreaking. This basically makes the card immune to any spells. So if your opponent is spell heavy, this will give you a bit added layer of protection. The Banner of the Bastion, when the banner is in play, you get +1 to all combat rolls. That's across the board for your entire army. The Ring of Protection acts like a saving throw. The card carrying the ring can roll a d6 when it's removed from play. On a 3+, the card remains in play and the ring is removed instead. Shield of Redcastle, the card carrying the shield gets +5 in all defense rolls, so that gives a massive defense bonus for any card that you give the Shield of Redcastle to. And conversely, we have the Sword of Slaying. The card carrying the sword gets +5 in all close combat attack rolls, so giving the card the Sword of Slaying makes it much more effective in close combat attacks. And finally, we'll move on to the magic spells available to humans. First one, easiest to cast at the cast score of 17, as you can see up the top left-hand corner, is the Ice Wall. If you cast the Ice Wall, your opponent may not make any moves during their next movement phase, so this can really lock down your opponent and really frustrate them, or even stop them winning for the game if they're very close to your back line. Fireball is next, playing your opponent's card. The opponent must roll 8+ and 2d6 plus the card's magic score, or the card is removed from play. So this gives you a cheap, effective way of trying to remove cards, but it's not going to work really well against cards that have a magic score. You're going to have to aim it at cards that have a magic score of 0. Even then, they still have an 8+ chance of surviving, but that's because it's a cheaper one to cast. Healing. When cast, you can retrieve one of your cards from your opponent's conquer pile and immediately play it as a reinforcement. So if your opponent has just taken out one of your elite cards, or even better, a hero or a champion, and it's still sitting in their conquer pile, if you successfully cast healing and have a space available in your back row to play as a reinforcement, you may immediately take it out there and your opponent has to deal with them all over again. Lightning Bolt is like a souped up fireball. Playing your opponent's card, they must roll 11+ and 2d6 plus their magic score or be removed from play. So same rules as the fireball, but it's 11+ instead of 8+ on them, and with addition to the magic score. So it's a better version of a fireball. The Arcane Bolt is a slightly different one. Playing your opponent's card, the opponent must roll 8+ and 2d6 or the card is removed from play. Note there that it doesn't mention anything about the magic score, so even if the card has a high magic score, it doesn't come into effect when you play the Arcane Bolt, so it's a good way of getting magic cards off the table. And that finishes up our look at the Alliance forces and Alliance army. Hope you enjoyed the video and hope to catch you again soon when we do more of these for other factions. Thank you very much.